Hello,
Um,
everybody. It's time. We're back. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Survivor New York Recap podcast and the Exit Interview podcast. This is that one. I'm Naomi. Welcome to Silent Podcast, where we're anything but silent. I am joined by my co host, the founder and creator, the auteur of Survivor New York. It's Chris Lord. Chris, how you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here. The next best podcast ever is about to happen. We're joined by a very special guest, McKenna.
Thank you, thank
Yay!
you. Happy to be here. It's sad to be here so soon, but happy to be here.
I would say, McKenna, we'll get this right out from the start. You were the vote I was most shocked by occurring so early. I was
Me
like,
too.
McKenna's gonna get voted out eighth or seventh. I felt it in my bones, and
Mhm.
yet here you are. And I was very surprised, but I think that no matter what, you had a very fighting spirit right until the very end. So thank
Mhm.
you everyone who's joining us so far. McKenna, welcome. How you doing?
Oh, I love Survivor, so happy to talk about it, even if it's my own demise.
Oh my gosh, Chris.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's talk about McKenna. This is all about her. So where do we
Of
start?
course. I mean, I would love to just hear I know your story, but maybe people tuning in like your history with Survivor and like getting
Mhm.
to find
All the
Survivor New
family.
York and wanting to apply and just like your process of getting chosen and then like preparing for that.
So I actually applied to season 3,
Yes, you did.
and got denied. Because it happened to be Blood versus Water, and I had a friend of mine also apply, and we weren't long enough or close enough friends, so um, we got denied. Then I applied for, I think, SBS 3, and then here we are. I find the post again for Survivor New York. I apply, and then what the pandemic hits,
Oh
and
yeah.
then and then I'm like, all right, I don't know if I'm gonna get this, and then the interview, and I'm like, I think I really nailed that one, and then here we are, and I get cast, and I was so excited. But my like Survivor journey is my first season was Millennials versus Gen X,
Me
and then
too. That's
yeah, and then
crazy. Oh my
I
Oh my God.
I caught Survivor, like I started liking Survivor right as Korong was ending, so I had the whole off season to like see my first live one. But
wow.
I watched Richard Hatch on The Biggest Loser, and then was like, "What is Survivor?" and started.
That is hilarious.
Yep, yeah.
I
So
am
my
shocked
my
by that.
Survivor journey comes from The Biggest Loser.
I have
Wow.
I always thought that you were like a day one super fan, watching since like 2000. And I know, I mean, I didn't even know that about you either, that you've
Mhm.
just started from
Oh,
Millennials
that's
I
versus
really
would have
Gen X.
been
funny.
I'm
4 in
shook. I'm
2000.
shook. You guys are
So.
both, oh, okay. I'm
Yeah,
old.
I would have been 6.
Okay, I'm old.
No,
But
but I think you're right, Chris. It's like it's a really surprising. McKenna, I thought you were like my parents showed me Survivor and I watched every week kind of
Mhm.
like person. But that's
No.
really funny.
I
But
just binged pretty much back to back. Like I ended watching up to Millennials versus Gen X and started again. I think I've seen every season probably upwards of 5 times. Like I'm
that's
that like
so what is your favorite Survivor season and who's your favorite Survivor player?
basic bitch, heroes versus villains, and Parvati.
wow.
Okay, that is like the most basic two answers
I've got my hang
possible.
on.
Listen, all right. When
I
you have
mean,
a signed photo of her.
I'm not mad at it. I'm
Fight,
not
fight,
mad at
fight.
either answer. They're both great answers, but it's just so
But
funny.
all right, real talk, real talk. I really love Cook Islands. Cook Islands is one of my favorite seasons. Hey, Parvati or Marquesas.
Great
Ooh, I
taste,
love
great taste.
Marquesas.
Yeah.
That's really
Amazing.
funny. Yeah, Chris, I got dumped by my ex-boyfriend like 6
Oh
years
my
ago,
God.
and my friends were like, "You should watch Survivor. Take your trauma and put it somewhere else."
That
And
is
I
funny.
did.
And you
And I
did it
watched
with
all of it.
Adam Klein and Hannah. and all them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first
Iconic.
season that I watched, I mean, even more deranged, the first season I watched like fully live because I caught Millennials vs. Gen X was Game Changers, which is crazy. Like that's such a crazy
Oh my
My
god! And
girlfriend's
you became
favorite
like
season
friends
is
with
Game Changers.
Andrea. That's funny.
Carrie.
This is some questions we've never asked anybody else voted out before. Like I'm loving this. Hearing their
Yeah.
favorite Survivor player and their favorite season. It's important to know because I feel like really it judges you as a person to know this information.
Yeah. So it
It
also,
it should go on the app. Yeah.
I
That's
guess
favorite season.
stems into the first challenge that we get is brain versus brawn. So
Great segue, McKenna. Love
yeah,
it.
you can tell that I also podcast. I was like the only one who knew Survivor on my tribe, and I was like, I don't want to be out there in front knowing all the answers. Also, have no idea who Jordan Kalish is. So, like him being there, he was just another podcast. He was just another person on
Just
Rock.
some fucking guy from Westchester.
I knew Davey more than I knew Jordan Kalish. I
That
knew
is
Emily
so
Paddock.
funny.
I knew Liska more than I knew Jordan Kalish.
As you should. As you
I mean,
should.
you did watch
So-
the season.
So him being there, there was nothing to me. So like I don't know. He was my tribe handler, and then when I came back to my friends, I was like, "Yeah, this guy Jordan, what?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I didn't want to be out in front with knowing all the Survivor trivia. Plus, I have a previous relationship with Ed and Andrew, and I hosted both of them in Survivor trivia, and they were also really good. So it was like, we have one on each tribe that knows Survivor trivia. Let's just do brawn. And everyone else was more comfortable with brawn. So that's why we chose that. And then I still wound up being the strategist for that challenge, and it shot me in the foot anyway. So
But you
That
guys
challenge was
did
a
win.
mess.
yes, we did win the challenge. And even Andy even doubted my strategy of just because again, I watch a lot of Survivor. Yes, thank you, Kristen.
Kristen, legend.
I watch a lot of Survivor, so I know the proper technique for this. It's put all the big people first, and then so your little people don't have to either hop around or try and maneuver over your big people. And that's how we eventually won.
Yes, it's all
Smart.
about like low center of gravity. You should be jumping over people, not trying to get around them.
Mhm.
Shout out to Peridium. Thank you for the videos. Kayla says comps track queen. They're called challenges, Kayla. Get this BB stand-up out of here. I'm so sorry. McKenna, the question I kind of have is like, because I think that you and I are on this very similar, interesting pathway, which is like you just get super into Survivor in the middle of like 33, 2006, 7. No, 17, 2016, 17. You're just like, hey God,
my
listen,
God.
bad at math, right? And you're just like, okay, what now? I love Survivor. And I ended up falling into the LRG community, and you have become, I would say, like an org mastermind. Where does
Icon.
that?
She's an
Yeah,
icon.
Thank
icon,
you.
mastermind, auteur, creator. Where did you get sent down that pathway? How does that come about?
So I was a part of, and still am a part of, the Survivor Specialists community. And the Russell Hantz show did a podcast v podcast Survivor game. So first it started out with him v Johnny Fairplay, then it became him v the Specialists. I was on the Specialist tribe when they put that game together, and that game kind of left a bad taste in a bunch of my friends and I's mouths. So we were like, let's make a different community that like you leave happy from a game. You have friends after this. You like want to keep talking to all of your castmates and just create like this positive community within the org world that can be so toxic. So we have now made Dynamic Character Productions. Hi, go follow. And we just put on Survivor games that are just fun you do the challenges, tribal council. We have minis, long games, and it's just a good day or 39 days of fun.
Is it actually like 39 days, like
For
straight
our
of
long
gameplay?
games, well, we have
Okay.
two days off a week.
Okay.
So
So it's like
otherwise,
39 days, but like there's 2-day breaks in
Mhm.
between. So sometimes
Yeah,
like 50 whatever days total
yeah,
of a
something
game or
like that.
something like that. Okay, that's really cool. I like that
Well, no,
concept.
it's 39 days, but there's 2 off days a week.
Oh, I see
Still
what you
fit
mean.
into the
Okay, I see
39
what
days.
you mean. It's like
Mhm.
everything's one
So we
day.
don't have the
Okay.
we don't have challenges or tribal council, but they can still talk and strategize.
Still, still like socialize and play the game for 2
Again,
days.
this is not a
without me.
math podcast. So.
I think that's really cool. I think that's a great concept. And if
Days
you're,
are not
you
well
know,
known for math, so
oh,
I mean, I'm here too.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm only half good at math. So I
Wait, I
else.
want to ask really quickly. Would you ever consider hosting your own like actual live game?
Oh.
Oh, 100%.
Have you like ever put it into like a slow motion or like written it out or anything like
So
that?
I put together for my birthday party MCK TV's The Challenge. Um,
Oh, I remember seeing this on Instagram.
Yeah. So I did a challenge game for a bunch of my friends, and they came, and nobody was eliminated. It was just like stealing a bunch of points around, and the top 4 ran my final and like did that whole business. So yeah, I planned a day's worth of challenges and a final challenge gauntlet.
You are not the only person. You're not the only person from Survivor New York alumni to do like a. Mark Messari did a Survivor themed birthday party, which I remember I couldn't make, but I was really sad. I would love to play that now. That sounds like so much fun.
I have the
love
binder
challenge.
still.
I was an OG challenge fan. I wasn't. I was like a
Mhm.
teenager watching MTV, way too young. And I love the challenge.
Pandemic challenge fan.
Yeah.
Okay, you say that you're an OG fan, but I'm thinking like,
I know.
the Gauntlet season 1, like Queen Sarah. You guys are thinking like all these like way later seasons.
Oh come on! I watched
like,
Fresh Meat too.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it was like 2008.
My earliest
Yeah, my mom wasn't
season
home
that I
from
saw, I
work
think,
yet.
is like 17. So like I'm not gonna say that I know all for the challenge, but
Yeah, I just
from
didn't know how
17
TVs
on,
work.
I've seen it a bunch of times.
That's awesome.
Circling back to the season, the season 3 thing, because I think I don't know if we have fully dissected how interesting the relationship of you getting onto onto Survivor New York is, because I got brought in as crew for Survivor New York 3 after applying, and I remember Dan wanted to bring you in as well in like an editing aspect, and I never sort of followed up on that, and I was like, oh, that's I mean, sure, Elizabeth, like Dan was really great at sort of bringing all these people in, and then I like saw you didn't apply for 4, right? And then
I must have like lost where it was, like in application or whatever, because I don't think I followed Survivor New York. I found it through and Kayla and I are talking about it.
Love Fresh Meat too. Include me.
I followed the NYC Survivor fans, and so I didn't follow Survivor New York at the time, and so it must have gotten lost somewhere, because I think that was my senior year of college at 4, or like somewhere around there, maybe the year after I graduated.
That was basically the year before pre-pandemic, essentially, right?
Yeah.
2019.
But when I saw your app for season 5, I have to say, in my head I was like, it's a wrap. She's in. Like we saw your application, and I remembered you, and I knew sort of vaguely who you were and how big of a fan you were, and I was like, we do actively want super fans. We're not CBS. We like actually want people who really like this game. But also a very fun interview. Like I had a great time. I remember. Do you have the early memories?
Oh, of course I do. Because like I said, like, I play the flirt game. And so then you tell me afterwards, there's a reason why we put Kristen on your tribe.
That is so funny, because that's what I was gonna say. Like we kind of did that right away.
It worked.
We wanted you to start like a real showmance. I think
Yeah,
that
we
was
were
one of
ha-
my
yeah.
earliest memories of you. Was like,
Hmm.
we have this super fan. She's young. She's single. You know,
It
she can really
asterisk.
charm.
There was an asterisk single.
Okay, yeah. I think yeah. We didn't know that part. But
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, well,
At applying might have been single. At gameplay, not so single. But had permission to flirt.
Okay.
That's my favorite strategy, though. Like playing a little, it's a little camp, right? This is fake Survivor. Why not have fun?
It was great. And I had not that like I had Kristen more than Danny had Kristen. Let's put it there.
I believe that.
Well, I believe that not only because I think, and I don't think it was a strictly flirtatious based
Oh, no.
friendship. I think you guys were so in sync. I think more than I even expected.
Mhm.
And it was really fun to watch you guys as a duo emerge. And we'll talk a little bit more about like what coulda, shoulda, woulda happened
Oh
between
God,
you
yeah.
two. We'll get there. But I loved.
Well,
I
it
remember
helped
you
that she
said
was one
that.
of the first ones that was there. Like me,
Yes.
her, and Danny and Laura were the first 4 people there for like an hour.
Well, you live the
Oops.
closest.
That's true.
You did.
I mean, you should have been there first, but
Wow.
Laura was just way ahead of timing. She was
Mm.
there for a long time before anybody. But I just want to like get into like the first episode, like, so you know, Kristen finds the idol, and did it ever come about in like that first round, you know, that maybe she had it to you, or did you always think that maybe Andy had it, or do you think you guys really could not find that idol?
I don't know who had the idol, and I stopped caring, to be honest. I was like, I hate looking for this thing. I don't care about having it myself. And I feel like I was making good enough relationships that it wouldn't have been used against me per se. So like if Danny had it, I feel like eventually it would come out where he would either tell us about it or I would hear it from someone that he had it. If Andy had it, I feel like I would hear about it. Kristen was like a Wheaties flake from telling me, and then Andy found it in her bag. So like I feel like I was in well enough that it didn't matter who had it. Maybe Robin was the only one where I wasn't as close. I was trying, but because of their strategy of we don't need to really talk game until we have to talk game, it was hard to make the connection there for me.
But if you had found it, would you have kept it a big secret? Like if you know, because everyone was looking, and
Mhm.
you say you stumble upon it, would you have told everybody, or would you just try and play the Kristen card and keep it very secretive, being as a big a Survivor fan as you are?
Great question. I don't know what I would have done. Kristen definitely would have known about it right off the bat when I found it. And then I feel like I would talk to her and see what to do after that. But I feel like I might have hidden it a little bit better in my bag because hers was right on the outside.
It
was like not even wrapped in anything. Like Talk had to go through Brienne's bag. I just felt the bottom of Kristen's bag when Andy was like, feel this. And it was right there. I love her, but it was right there.
I want to circle back really quickly to meeting the people that you were going to play with to the day 0, because being there early has its advantages. You got to meet everybody. Who did you have a really good first impression of? You wanted them on your tribe, all that stuff that comes with meeting a bunch of people really quickly.
100%, it was Kristen. And then like I think it just stemmed from who I had been talking to the longest, and then I had tried to like stray away, and so I had a decent relationship with Andrew Denson because I had just hosted him in a game, in a long form game, so I was around him for 39 days, and then he had played a trivia game with me before, so I feel like I had a decent enough relationship. Plus, I know the game that he plays because I just edited him as well. So I knew all of his inner thoughts.
Oh, no.
And he was like, I don't vote out women. So I'm like, if he's on my tribe, I'm safe. I felt like I could go with like talking to Ed. Sharif came in decently early. Kayla came in decently early. So like, I got some good talks with these people, but definitely the one who I connected to the most, I was like, when you were reading out names for tribes, I was like, don't pick Kristen, don't pick Kristen, don't pick Kristen.
Leave me be. Yeah, I did not know the Edsel thing. We knew the Andrew thing. I don't know how I found it out, but I had found it out somehow. So I was like, okay, they can't be on the same tribe together.
Yeah.
But Edsel, when you said that, I was like, this world is too fucking small. Like I got so not like in a bad way, but I just you never know how someone's gonna know someone.
That Ed will get more into when you talk to Ed, but he applied to Survivor New York right after playing my all-star game for trivia because he got back into the love of Survivor again and like back into the world and was like, you know what? I'm gonna apply. So like I helped him indirectly apply to the season.
And then he got you voted out.
Hey, you know, it's all right. I don't blame, we'll get more into this, but I don't blame Ed and Sharif.
Oh,
okay. I mean, we'll get into it, but I think they should have kept you. But we'll get into that.
Oh, yeah, they should have. That was dumb. But
yeah. I want to ask a question about, because you and Danny got chosen to like pick the food and then you guys won the reward. You'd probably watch season 4 in preparation for this. Did you think there was like an idol or like a clue in the food?
Well, we took our sweet time choosing the food because we were like, we're going to examine this bag of trail mix. All right. We're going to examine, this box of Pop-Tarts. We're going to look at, we inspected everything we were putting into everyone's boxes. And then we're like, but also we want to give us like the best amount of food. So like, there was a certain number that we distributed everything evenly. Everyone got the same amount of items, but like 2 people got 2 more or like one more drink. So like that's not as fueling as like some, more Pop-Tarts that we got or something like that. So we did like that kind of thing. But I was kind of chosen to go up there because I had the strategy of, us winning the challenge. So I was like, all right, great. Just more targets. We love this. And
I love that you guys did the picking out because of course we're trying to trick you. I think that everybody has realized that now is that we are like 5 steps ahead. It's like the traders. You got to think about like, well, you're acting like a trader, so maybe you're not. The producers were giving this food, so maybe they want us to go through it, but they didn't put any. Like
yeah.
You gotta be 10 steps ahead to outsmart me, Chris.
We didn't ever like inspect afterwards, really. It was just like during it, like, this is a loose bag of something. This is off. So let's just glance in it. All right, no. And then kept moving.
So day 1 rolls around. We have our first challenge. We have our first strat round. And really what I want to talk about is Andy and the idol clue and the Bannerman Island decision in the first place, because I think that Andy getting to see the clue, revealing it to you guys, sets up this really interesting dynamic where like you and Kristen are connecting very closely. Andy and Danny are connecting very closely. Kristen and Danny are connecting. And it kind of, in a weird roundabout way, creates a 4-person alliance. I am curious from your perspective how it felt to be on Palapel in the early days, especially in relation to Andy and his information, his note of information.
Yes. So Danny comes off as this, just he has that leader type. So whenever we had leader type decisions, I never wanted to be like someone put in that position. And Danny's like the stereotypical person to do that. So great. Keep putting Danny in these roles. I'm okay with it since I'm good with Danny. Him picking Andy, I was like, all right, great. Also not me, because I was worried about that because of the previous, like we had both divided up the stacks, what have you. And I really appreciated Andy, like, here's the paper. Here, like, this is everything that I got. Unlike Brienne was like, I actually didn't get a clue. I didn't get the paper. So, like, we got to see the paper. We got to see the clue. And he didn't wind up getting it. So, like, he was being honest. And I could feel that he was being honest with us. So that made me want to work with him moving forward. And when I didn't know he also went to Robin and Danny, but it felt like to me that he was just telling me, feel Kristen's bag. There's an idol in it. So that felt like he was creating a line of trust directly with me, and I had a direct line of trust with Andy. So he was playing his role that he wanted to play very well, of this tall, goofy, funny guy. And I believed him, and then when, he just felt loyal, felt trustworthy. So to me, it didn't matter that he got his paper.
I mean, after Kristen, would you say Andy was your biggest ally, or was it Danny?
It was probably Danny, but I just had my eye on Danny. Like,
yes.
I knew he would have the most potential to either flip or to be the most it was one of the other, of like, he would flip or he would be ride or die there. So I was just waiting to see if that flip happened. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Alex says, gotta love a tall, goofy, funny guy.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. There's one every season, right?
I was working with Alex in All-Stars, in SBS All-Stars, so
Oh boy. Well, another question I kind of have is about Ari and Robin, because I think that it wasn't quite clear from the footage that we had and in the edit, but you just mentioned that earlier. Robin is a very smart player, and I think that because they didn't know much about Survivor, like they literally did not watch any Survivor before participating. And coming from a world of orgs where somebody is always up for elimination, and you might, like, everybody's on the block all the time. It's like a giant merge. I think that they were operating off of the thought process of, I will hold back and not put anybody's name out there because I don't want it to come back to me. That led to everybody feeling like Robin wouldn't tell them any sort of information about where they were leaning, which then in turn like manifested into this, what's going on with Robin? Does anybody know what they want to do? Whereas you have on the other side of the spectrum, Ari Ferrari telling you exactly what he wants to do all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not as congruent with your plans. How was that?
For me, they were the two spectrums, like you were saying, where day zero, I listened to all of Ari's exit interview, not for the reasons he said at all. I was sus of him, but everyone's energy level is about here. We're all excited, we're all happy, and then Ari's here. So like, I was immediately like, I can't deal. I just like too energetic. Like everyone was like mellow and just chill. And then he was just out there, and I was like, if he's on my tribe, man, he's going. I love Ari now. He is amazing and such a great guy, and I am an Ari fan. And if I had known, like, the communication, like the direct communication that Ari had with me, it didn't feel as like die hard, I'm gonna work with you, as it actually was. Like that did not read. And if I read that, I might have sided on the Ari side of things, because there were a bunch of times where Kristen and I would meet up that round and be like, all right, so which side are we going on? Danny and Andy or Ari and Robin? Because I feel like Robin didn't want to vote Ari, but was just going with the majority. So like, where do we side? We're the deciding vote here. And we wound up going with Danny and Andy.
Wow.
It's very interesting. I do think that watching Ari's game, and I'm curious what you think, Chris, it felt like Ari would often tell a big group his plans, but then would sideline with people and like mile a minute be like, this is what we're doing, this is why we should do it, blah blah blah. Do you want to do it? Okay, great. And you wouldn't ever want to say no, but at the same time he had so many ideas, but he would often throw them out to a large group of people, so you're like, well, I don't know if anybody's actually into this. Chris, what is your interpretation?
Well, Ari was just constantly jumping, and he was constantly very loud about everything. But he had such a disdain for Andy. And I'm like, I feel like in your shoes, you would have been kind of annoyed to constantly hear him, targeting Andy and just like thinking that he has the idol and this and that. Um, I think Ari's boot is warranted just because in the early stages of a game like this, you want somebody that is not going to be so loud and he kind of just interjected his opinions and his strategies onto your tribe so much. And I think maybe that is one of the reasons why you wanted to side more so with Danny and Andy, because you could get like your word in edgewise and maybe get more feedback where Ari just like had a target and a goal and would not sort of let go of that target and goal.
Yeah, I also feel like with Robin also being so quiet, like it was just more unknown over there where I felt like I could maybe manipulate a situation if I had to more with Danny and Andy.
Yeah, because I do think there's not a I think in all of this, Robin is not against you and Kristen.
No, and I was never against Robin either. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to keep Robin in. She was my bedmate. They were my bedmate. And, I was like, we got to stick together.
Yeah.
And
it was like a good collaboration of like, let's work together. It just was like never fully cemented.
My favorite confessionals is Robin being like, yeah, McKenna's the brains of the operation. I'm like, oh, you clocked that real early, didn't you?
You're really good at that.
This is a real question though. If Paul loses right after Ari goes, like you guys lose again, because you guys were close to losing that. And we'll get back to episode 2. I'm just curious because it's on my mind now. Do you think Robin would have been voted out? Or do you think it could have been Andy? Like, because there had to have been some sort of like rumbles about what you and Kristen wanted to do next.
I think it depends on Danny, where Danny wants to sway here. Because the 3 of Robin, Kristen, and I could do something and vote out Andy, but I really didn't want to create a situation where like Kayla was exiled pretty much and felt exiled from her tribe. If Danny wasn't in or didn't like the vote, then he would feel that want to betray Polypel. So in that small tribe setting, you kind of need to have that consensus. So if Kristen, myself, and Danny are the ones staying, and Andy and Robin are the ones up for the vote, you kind of have to see where Danny's loyalties lie.
Which I think would have made for a very interesting episode, because as close as Danny and Andy seem right now, I think Danny had a very good relationship with Robin.
And I didn't see that at all.
They both talk about it in the episodes. Yeah.
Scene of them together being like, all right, we're good.
Yeah. And it's very powerful. So it's almost like I'm glad you guys did not lose, because I was not ready to lose any of you personally. Yeah. But that would have been a very interesting vote, because I really don't think it's clear cut either way, even though we can see that Andy and Danny have a very solid relationship at this point in the game. Let's talk about a little bit. Let's talk about the post swap. The swap a doodle do. The the way that this shook out, I felt so terrible for y'all, because I think it's worth pointing out that out of the 4 eliminated players up into the swap, 3 had been men. There was actually a larger percentage of like non-binary, femme, women players in the game than men. And somehow, like, the way that the tribes just kind of flip-flopped, it was so stupid. Even though I will say we did not put any hyper physical challenges in this segment of the game. Like catching a ball is the most physical challenge that was in there.
I wish I would have made it to that, because I'm actually decent at it. But
didn't you play softball or something? You're like,
yeah. Like,
we're like,
all right, they overhyped that. I played it for one summer with like a ragtag group of people. Like, we were not good. We didn't win a single game.
I was just like at the East Fishkill Rec as a kid, you know what I mean?
But like I did play lacrosse and stuff like that. That I did do. But like, yeah, I wish I made it to that challenge. I feel like I could have helped a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough.
Slightly.
So talk to us about the swap and
All
how.
right, let's do the challenge. So me.
Wait. When you pull the chip and you see the tribe first, like, I just want
Okay,
to know
yeah.
what
Oh,
is your
yeah,
what
yeah.
is your thought on that tribe?
Inside scoop, I could see inside the bag. I purposefully picked a green chip because I was like, it looks like a lot of green chips are still there. So the
Ooh.
odds are that
Damn.
someone's gonna pull a green chip, right? No, I'm the only one. Like, I did it to myself.
Oh
That's
my
the
God,
worst.
Hannah.
I've done that before in a Survivor game, and that is the worst.
100% did it to myself, but I felt a little bit okay because I did connect with Veronica a little bit on day 0, and then she comes up to me and is just like, "We got you!" Like when we're separating into the mats, I'm like, "All right." And then Sharif was there, Ed was there. I connected a little bit with Kit. Like, I felt good with everyone. I think Annie was the person who I least had conversations with, and I still had like a good talk with them at some point on day 0. So like, I felt decently okay until the vote out. After the vote out, then I knew I was toast. But yeah, I did it to myself. That swap 100% could have been a different story.
Cheaters never win. Yeah, thank you, Alex. I was gonna say
This
that's your lesson.
kind of random question. I doubt it happened, but did Kristen like say anything? Maybe like wanted to pass you the idol
It
or
did
anything
happen,
like
Chris.
that?
It did happen, and we missed it. But kind of tell
Okay,
us all about that.
tell
That's
the
what I want.
story. I need to know because I
We
did
had
not
this
know.
whole strategy once the whole tribe knew Kristen had the idol. All right, so if anyone gets swap screwed, we'll just pass the bag. But I was like, I also don't want to not have my bag. I can't take 2 bags because that's suspicious. And if we're just shoving things in each other's bags, like, there's no clean way that I could think of that we'd be able to pass the idol in the swap. Now, what I should have done is at the after that second loss, been like, Kristen, I'm screwed. Give me the idol, and then it wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a whole plan of whoever gets swap screwed, if there's someone who gets swap screwed, give them the idol. I was like, all right, great, that won't happen to me. We'll be fine. It'll be fine. Or they had the plan of, why don't we throw a challenge so they don't, we can pick off. And I was like, that also sucks and like never works out in Survivor when you throw challenges. So I don't want to do that either. Let the chips fall as they may. And they fell hard. Yeah,
Well, I feel like in that case they should have thrown it. They should have thrown after they saw that like one blue was out. I feel like they should have said, you know what? There's 4 of us. We can at least vote out
I don't
Jeremy.
think we were coming. I don't know if we were coming back in that puzzle because. All right, we'll get to my vote out.
We'll get
So
to
go back to Naomi. Get back to what Naomi had asked you.
So I had heard about the Kristen Idol pass,
Mhm.
and I had heard that you sort of said, no, it's okay. Which I don't think is a wrong assumption for this first vote. I don't think you were in a bad spot come the actual
I knew
swap.
I was safe this vote because I had to break the tie and nobody didn't want to be at a risk for a tie in the next one. So I was guaranteed not going home.
The question really is like, do you wish you had taken it, or do you feel like Kristen should have been even more pushy to you and said, you definitely need this? Like,
I feel like I think she had been we've talked about this since the game has ended, and I think she knew somewhere in her brain that I wasn't gonna do well. Maybe I could scrape by the vote, but it wasn't like a guarantee. So she had thoughts of like passing me the idol, but again, it's the how. And she didn't know how screwed I was. So if I was as screwed as I was, the idol passing wouldn't have mattered. And to Alex's question, yes. Because as Talk said, Ed gave it away in tribal council. So I knew my tribal council, I was toast.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of signs but we're not there yet. We're not there yet.
Wait, can I
You have
ask
the
a
easel
question
challenge.
about that
Mhm.
really quickly? So let's say in the world you did have the idol
But
and
Chris,
you
we're
knew you were
not there
going.
yet. Chris, we'll get
I'm
there.
sorry that it's just like I'm gonna forget
I
about
know.
it.
Well,
I'm gonna
it's on
forget.
my mind too. I got it locked in. What
Okay,
Yeah.
would you
okay.
do? Okay, so you're at the easel challenge, which I would say is kind of like like your team just falls apart a little bit.
Okay, I have the whole plan laid out. I have everything where I talk to everyone. I was like, how confident are you in memory? Veronica's like, I'm shit. So we give her the top piece that only has two options. It only has two options. She comes back, memorizes nothing. Then Annie comes back and memorizes the wrong half of what she was supposed to do. So Sharif memorizes his half, which is also the half that Annie put in. So we were just like mess up completely. And I'm like, I had a perfect plan. Like, granted, they were just faster than us, and I think would have won it anyway. But the plan that I had just went like at run one, and we were just done.
That's sad.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
laid out
brutal.
like, all right, Veronica, you do the top. Kayla had like that next row, and I think Ed and I split the following row, and then Annie and Sharif had the bottom row together. And I'm like, all right, good. We all run out. We're good. Come back. Should be done because everyone's memorizing a small portion. We're not trying to memorize.
and random too.
Board.
Yeah. There's a very funny moment where, like, we explain in the rules of the challenge, you run there and you run back, and that's your turn.
Mm-hmm.
And Veronica runs there, looks at the board for a little bit, runs back, and then goes, I don't know, and then tries to run back. And we're like, no, that's not how the challenge works. Get back in line.
And so then Kayla has to recoup. Yeah. And she puts up Veronica's piece and her pieces. And I'm like, we're just not going to get anywhere. And then we look over and Stan has half the board on their side. And it's just not going to happen.
Stan. Okay, so y'all lose this challenge. Mm-hmm. And now you have seen the Alex Forstenhauser sponsored Survivor New York reward. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about that as a reward? We'll get to the actual reward that is in the reward. But how did you feel about the idea of getting to talk to somebody who had an outside perspective on the game? Would you have found that useful?
I don't know, because as like Kayla was saying in her exit, like how much are they're not allowed to really say much of anything because Alex knows everything that's going on in the game basically. So he can't say too much to like try and comfort you, where horrible example, Cochran boat with Debbie, he doesn't really know what's going on in the interpersonal relationship. So is able to be like, all right, so talk to these people, make sure you work this way. So it could be a good like venting sesh, and that could be good for your like mental get back in the game. But I don't know about like strategy wise or anything like that, where it would be good to like decompress with him rather than like strategize and like make sure I'm good moving forward.
So we should have Alex like not come next time. Just like wait for the reward.
I think it would also be better with a one-on-one like we saw in 4.
Yeah, it's a one person, right?
Mm-hmm. Because then you're able to have a little bit more time with him, and you might be able to bounce a little bit more off of him. But I think it serves better as a one-on-one.
Well, I think that, and Alex and I were talking about this just the other day, and I think this is what we intended. We hid the clue in the sandwich. And what we had wanted was that somebody opened the advantage menu, saw it, and then went to Alex to ask for advice. Mm-hmm. And they were supposed to have a consultation.
Right. I got why everyone did it once I heard what was on the clue. I was like, makes sense why Alex was like, and everybody can have a talk with me. And I'm like,
to cover it all up. Yeah, and Alex makes a good point, which is I gave strategy advice based on only the information each player gave me. Which
props to him, because it would be super hard.
It's a hard line to
if he could do that, like Great.
But as we saw, Robin behinds the advantage menu and says, "All right, Stan, get over here." And then they both look at it. They're like, "All right, what do you want to do?" "All right, here, Stan, you take it." And Stan goes over. I thought that was so funny. Like, I think I had left at that point, and we heard about it secondhand. That like,
Mhm.
yeah, so Robin just handed it over, and Stan actually has it now. And you're like, what the fuck just happened?
And
See,
I
nobody
also
expected
know
that.
Stan.
Oh,
Surprisingly.
yes.
Yeah. So I also know Stan. He helped on like the Russell Hant show side of things for like my org that I first played in. So I knew of him. I knew of Dr. Stan. And then so he comes walking in and is just like, yeah, oh my God, McKenna. And I was just like, great. So like this thing that I'm trying to keep secret is now here because Stan knows about it. And I'm like, all right, great. And I don't want anything to do with him. So like I was saying like let's work together, but I was like, no, I'm good. Because I knew he was like a sneaky player, at least in the org that I saw him play. So like he was like sort of like underhanded there. So I was like, I don't need this. So if I had been on a tribe with him, he would have been more of my target than an ally. So I go against the grain with the rest of the cast.
Whoa, against the grain.
So, McKenna, I want to get to you're going back to the camp, you
Mhm.
know. We see you chatting with like Veronica and Kayla and it's like girls. And it seemed like such an easy, smart move. Like if the girls could just stick together, they could vote out Ed and Sharif, and it's like 5 guys are gone pre-merge.
Mhm.
Like this is a woman or a non-binary person's game at that
Mhm.
point. Like where did that fall off?
So it fell off with I feel like I could trust Sharif and Ed more than the entirety of Purple because I knew Veronica and Jeremy were just going to get back together. Julia was somewhere in that mix, and so was Annie. And then you
How
had Stan. So it was the purple of it all, not the girl of it all.
how
Like
did you know that Jeremy and Veronica were
it was
close?
just there.
It was that
It was there. I on Polypel, never interacting with them, knew that Jeremy and Veronica were together somehow.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, you'll see. I don't know if you caught this in the episode. At the end of the challenge, that you guys lose, they high five, like cross tribal
Oh, I
line.
didn't see it. Oh my
And
God.
I zoomed in on it because I was like, guys, what are you doing? Like you're high fiving the member of the opposite tribe, but
Yeah,
from your own tribe. It's
I
really
was
funny.
I was more worried about my safety with Purple than I was, like I just didn't get the best vibe from the 3 of them as a whole. Then like and I'm usually 1 for an all girls alliance. I actually was one of the first ones to pitch it being like, so this is a great time to get rid of Sharif. Because swap right before a merge, get the big boy out of here.
It was
And
literally like on a silver platter, you know, it was
Mhm.
like right there for you guys.
And then it just felt like
Kayla says we knew Edisopus too.
Yep.
LMAO. It was a topic of conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So it just like never came together. I don't know what disconnects were there. Plus, you had Julia being like, I can't let Ed or Sharif go. So then, like, with her fighting that as well, then I was like, all right, I don't feel safe going directly with Purple. I'm going to shift gears, go directly with Blue because I feel good with 2 of the 2 boys, and I'll have a conversation with Kayla, and then we'll be okay because then she has the majority. And so I was like, all right, we'll throw Kayla as the vote to Purple to, it doesn't matter who gets written on the parchment because I'm going with Blue and that's where the majority of the votes are. So then it just all kind of blows up and just like fizzles out and Kayla somehow goes home in the middle of that.
I think Kayla last week said that you said she was gatekeeping information about like the Bannerman Island decision, and she was like being super sneaky. Is that
It
what you
did feel
remember?
so while watching the episode, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. She wasn't giving like information on the Bannerman Island decision because I was like, who had the extra vote? And she was like, but that also could have been mixed with our time constraint because we had dinner thrown in the middle of this and we were told not to talk about at least strategy stuff. So
Oh,
we
yeah,
were
because we
just
were
like
eating and we
all
didn't
on the
want we were
picnic
like
table,
not
like
filming.
like, all right, we want to talk now. And then we had like 10 minutes and we're like, what? We just swapped. So it was just a crazy time to try and dot all your I's and cross all your T's.
Something that I think I've observed after watching this is that um uh Kayla claims I deny anything that makes me look dumb. Copy that. Um
You're not.
I think that in Kayla's position, uh and Veronica's got a really funny sell, right? I love watching Veronica really sell this girls alliance, only to immediately be like, you know what? No. And part of it is because of Julia and what
Yeah,
Julia wants.
Veronica wanted to keep Kayla, and
Yeah.
I would have like that's the thing is I had more connections with everybody except for Annie. Annie to me felt like my least connect on that tribe. So
Mhm.
I would have been more willing to vote her out, which is what the Blues, aside from Kayla, wanted or were led to vote for. So
Um,
like that I was like, all right, great. That works for me because I don't really have a connection with her right as of this moment.
I think that we see over the course of like last week's episode and this episode that you just see how exhausted Veronica gets by lying, which is
Mhm.
totally fair. She basically like lied to Kayla, lied to you, but also in some ways made promises to you that she couldn't keep.
Mhm.
Which I don't think is necessarily like Veronica is not like a bad player, nor is she maliciously lying to people.
Yeah.
She wants these things to happen and then they simply do not happen,
Mhm.
and she
I've
kind of gets
noticed
stuck
that
in the alliance
she's
she's in.
more able to be overruled than she would like.
That's a
She
great way of
hasn't
putting
been
it.
able
Yeah.
to put her foot down and it stay down. And people have kind of just been like, no, this is what needs to happen. And I like knowing what I know now, I wish I had put more because I had a little bit of input in the Kayla name being written down. If I had just been like, no, I think Ed is the move, then Veronica would have had more of a footing in the game.
I agree with that. I
Um,
agree with everything you said, actually. I think Veronica is like such a leader in her day-to-day life,
Mhm.
being a teacher in a classroom, stuff like that. So it's like you see it so much in this episode, like even in the next vote after yours, like she's just trying to take control of every aspect that she can.
Mhm.
And it's so frustrating when things don't go your way. And I do see in the episode, and there's some off footage that wasn't shown that you were basically saying like we might need these boys in the challenge. A lot of people were saying that the boys were so quintessential to win these challenges.
Mhm.
But I think we talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Basically, like how, on a memory challenge, you guys lost.
Mhm.
So it's like, who's to say you really need them?
Yeah. It's that survivor bias ingrained in your head when you have watched seasons 3 times, 4 times, 5 times over. It's always keep the strong, because when you see what happens when they vote out the strong or the perceived strong, the tribe goes to shreds. So like for me in my head of student of the game, by student of the game I mean I watch for entertainment, not study the strategy. Just it feels like you have it in you to be like, all right, we have to keep these people, when I feel like I might have been like a greater challenge asset on the tribe rather than Sharif or Ed.
I
Yeah.
I also think in some ways like it didn't need to be about challenges in this tribe. It just needed to be about how many votes do we think we have until a merge? How do we get there? If we lose every challenge.
See, that was my thinking at my vote out. So I was just like, it's at least this one and maybe one more. We're good at girls. Sorry, Kayla. We're good at girls. If we lose these ones, it doesn't matter. So for me, I had more of a stake in it at Kayla's vote out because there was the potential where I would then be in Ed's place. Though I wish I was in Ed's place now. But and like it at my vote out, I think it made a little bit more sense than at Kayla's vote out to vote out the boys, because then we really would have floated right to the merge.
Now, something interesting that comes up, I just think in this episode in general, is that we'll come back a little bit to your sort of round, but is that Edsel is voted out instead of Sharif? You see Jeremy cast his vote for Sharif at the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Because I was watching with Jeremy, and Jeremy was just like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, it was right there. Why don't you vote out Sharif? And you got to be on this tribe with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the correct move was if you're in the purple group or if you were in an alliance with them and it was like you four making a decision?
I would have voted to keep Ed because I knew him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just personal to me, but I also was a bit blinded by Sharif because he is such a nice guy. So like him being a nice guy and like when he speaks to you, like I could feel him listening to the conversation and it felt like he was engaging in it. And that kind of almost disarms his height, his largeness compared to myself. So like it almost disarms it, where it didn't feel like he was like this beast coming into the merge.
Yeah, he has that presence over everybody, and it's not even when he's playing Survivor. It's just like he's just a great person in general. Yeah, he can convince anybody to do anything in these games, and it's pretty insane.
This is a great question from Alex. Do you think Kayla had any impact on the Edsel vote because that's who she was targeting? And I think this kind of circles back to the moves that you had at your available to you when you were the target in the round prior to Edsel getting voted out. Kayla puts Edsel's name out there. Andy's name is out there.
Ed's name was also out there prior to Kayla saying it. Like, I think that was Veronica's target as well. Julia was the one who like halted that and was like, nah, let's not. So I think Kayla adding to it, Veronica adding to it, and then Veronica basically telling Ed she was being the one to be like, we'll tell you who it is. So like, I think that was also Veronica's maybe way of like getting her choice of the two boys out when she didn't have that luxury before.
I agree. McKenna, do you want to jump into the puzzle immunity challenge?
Oh, I did. And so we were told when we got to this challenge, pick two callers. Everyone else is going to be blindfolded. So, okay, Survivor Brain. These callers are just the ones calling, or they'll lead someone to, like, lead one blindfolded person to put together a puzzle. My thought is once everybody has their blindfold off, or like once the puzzle pieces are all back, we all can help with the puzzle. So it doesn't matter who's calling. It mattered who was calling because they were the ones doing the puzzle. We weren't told that they were specifically the ones doing the puzzle. So if I had known that, I would have been in the calling position. Maybe Veronica also would have been there with me. But like, we wouldn't have had both Sharif and Veronica, who I think Sharif has said before, like, he's not the best at puzzles. Veronica has said, like, she's okay at puzzles. And so we just were starting off low, where they had Jeremy and Stan, who were starting off a little bit higher. And so then we had me adding like halfway through. So I didn't have as much time with the puzzle to like really get to know the pieces. And then you add Kristen to the other side, like, we're done. Once I saw that Kristen was being added to the other side, I'm like, end game, back to tribal council, because she's a beast.
I have to push back on this slightly,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll figure it out, because Sharif and Stan don't call. They're just the solvers. Do you think it was a situation of like, you guys all got blindfolded and then we said, hey, these people are the puzzle solvers? Because they never call.
Yeah, well, it was the, like, pick two people to do, like, be like the callers or whatever. There was a verbiage that wasn't linking.
Puzzle solvers,
like, yeah. So once we had the blindfolds on, then it was announced these two will be solving the puzzle by themselves, and we're like, great. So now we can't switch anybody because they've seen the whole layout of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when we got put the blindfold on, it was daylight, and then all of a sudden it was night, and it threw me off.
It's like coming out of the subway, at night.
Mm-hmm.
That was crazy. Yeah, that
So,
whole like
we didn't know, and once my blindfold was on, I was like, crap, this is wrong, because I knew I was in a lower position in the tribe. So even if I messed up, didn't matter. I was probably going home or close to going home anyway.
Yeah, I wonder if you had fought back on it.
Decent at puzzles. So, like, if I had maybe the time that they all had on the puzzle, I might have been able to figure a trick out with it.
So I just wanted to briefly, because I've been sort of mentioning this, I want to talk about how awful this challenge was to edit and how I pulled it out of my butt. So
great job, Naomi.
My camera's microphone was off. I had to sync up the footage to Chris's lav mic.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I couldn't find any other files of the challenge. I could only find my no audio video file and Chris's audio file. And I was like, I'm going to have to make a challenge out of nothing, out of one video file. I'm going to kill myself. And so I edit the whole challenge. Then I find a clip from Alex, a couple clips from Alex, and a couple clips from Jordan. And I go, holy fuck, I can't just piece these. I need to restart the edit. I need to redo the synchronizing of the footage, because I have to synchronize all of the footage for the challenge to then cut to what I want to cut to. So then I did a second edit of the challenge, where we had more audio. But the whole challenge also involves Chris, you confirming with Joe that the puzzle is built correctly, which it totally was, because it was in a cube form when you would keep it somewhere. So we knew the puzzle it was correct and solvable. But also you have me being like, don't kill each other, because you see the clip of Robin almost getting completely clocked in the head by Kristen with the puzzle piece. And I cut myself up, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, there's so many moments where I'm sort of saying to people like, Andy, don't turn around too fast, because he'll take Kristen's head off.
Yeah.
This challenge is a quite the nightmare.
Well, I just want to say that we were banking on the time frame. We had basically thought that challenge was for sure going to be on the beach, and we had like the very end of sunlight to do the challenge. So I was always thinking that it was going to be on the beach until we started running behind, which I should have predicted, because we always kind of run a little bit behind.
Us behind? Never.
Yeah.
Rue,
So
never.
I'm like, fuck. It would have been so cool on the beach.
Yeah.
And then to have to go in the backyard, it was like such a small confined space, and it was like, oh, this is so frustrating. And like, even like the next challenge after that, would have been cooler on the beach, but we have to shimmy what we have to shimmy, whatever, to make it happen. And that's what happened.
It was manageable chaos, all right. But all good editing. McKenna gracefully is editing a challenge down the line, and I think the problem is that, like, sometimes we ran out of light is the big issue. And when you run out of light, I have a couple of my lights that I was putting up, and hello, Michael DeLucas.
Hello,
Lovely to have you with us. We're putting up all these lights, but people are also using their phones and they're putting flashlights on. It's so dark. I had to bring up the color so much on this clip, but then everybody looked really orange. It was crazy. And it's hectic because you lose the light. That's really the biggest thing. It was probably only like 8 p.m. or 7:30 p.m., but it just, the minute it starts to get a little bit dark, you can't see anything on camera. And it's just like such a.
And I want to say the puzzle is really hard. Like, I took that puzzle from Redemption Island. It was Christina versus Matt Elrod, and I like slowed it down frame by frame, and drawing out each piece when the production did their like quick version of how to solve it, like to explain the challenge. So I did that little by little to draw out every single piece, and then to solve it, I had to go back and watch that footage again because it was so hard for me to even solve it, and I had just made all the pieces. So I was like, "Oh my god, this is gonna take a long time," and it did take a long time. And people were questioning, is this puzzle correct? And it really is correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the thing, is when you are either struggling with the puzzle or losing the puzzle, and especially in an LRG where like it is homemade, where there are errors that can occur. Like, is this correct?
I will say Stan kept coming to me. I remember him like screaming at me and being like, "I don't think this is correct." Like, he kept like questioning it over and over.
He was gaslighting you, Chris. He was
and
gaslighting
I've known Stan since I was 12 years old, so I was like, "Stan, it's correct. Leave me alone."
But then you'd go to Joe and you'd be like, it's correct, right? Like, he would be yelling at you, and you would be like, "Fuck off, Stan. It's totally right. It is right, right?" But it was, because we had assembled it in a way, and as they were saying, all of the animals have to be on the outside for it to be assembled correctly. So that's the way it is, and it's correct. It really was a fun, I think, puzzle to watch everybody solve.
I would have liked it better earlier. Like, just
to see it.
I think no, not necessarily because we'll be able to see it, but it was so like late. It was a tribe swap that there has the potential for people to be more frazzled and more like not thinking, and so it lasted longer than maybe it could have in an earlier round, and the lights diminishing, and then we had to add the third person. It was just like, it was a big puzzle, a great puzzle. When I saw it, I was like, "Oh man, this is great," because it's a classic Survivor puzzle. And then I was like, I'm fried and don't know how to do this.
Yeah, I wish it was the challenge before. Like, if those two challenges flipped.
If you swap the cube puzzle and this cube puzzle, no, the colored
the colored one,
like do something that way, then that would have been maybe a better placement, and we wouldn't have been like ready to yell at you that the puzzle's wrong, it has to be.
And this is why we went to 3 days for season 6.
Yeah. Although I will say we did insanity cubes in season 4, if you remember, after the swap when it got dark. And I remember that the colors you had painted it, Chris, they were a little difficult to tell apart. And I was just like, I don't know if it's wrong and I don't care. But it was right.
Well, it was because that was the colors on sale at Lowe's. And I was like, I'm about it.
That they were on sale. Okay, so McKenna, this round of strategy, Alex and I were talking. I know. Alex,
I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna really find out the time since, and I'm gonna get back to you.
It was probably longer than 5 minutes, but it also it felt short yet too long, because it kind of got to the same, you're talking back to the same people, circling back like, we're good. We all know the plan.
Right.
Coach has stopped in to say that McKenna is the GOAT. Probably, more than likely, almost certainly. Couldn't agree more. I feel like this round. Actually, I should ask you, McKenna, what do you wish you had done differently seeing the strategy play back?
So I'm a little confused, because Ed was saying she's not giving us anything about her relationships with the Green Tribe. And then we cut to me in a group with like Ed, Veronica being like, I'm decently tight with Kristen, so I can pull more people in, or I can vote them out. What do you want me to do with them? I will. Like, that literally was my mindset on the rest of the Polypel tribe, aside from Kristen. I was like, I'll vote them all out. I don't care. Like, this is like, I don't, because I didn't know what they wanted from me, because I felt like both answers would have been wrong. It's just one of those questions where it's like, you're not giving us any information, but also if I give you the information, what are you going to do with it?
It's like the mystery of believing, you know, it's like they don't know the truth of what to believe.
The
And
mystery
the
of belief.
smart,
Where is that from, Chris?
I just made it up out of my head.
Work. Okay.
Okay. But I just feel like that's like classic Survivor LRG. Like real show is so different in so many ways, but like an LRG, people are gonna look to play safe, and the safest move was to have that one blue person to pull in Brienne. And with you, it's like, oh well, you could easily just join up with 4 people on the other side, and it's like it would be 5 green, 5 purple, and then you guys both fighting for Brienne, and then obviously they were thinking Brienne is going to work with, you know, you guys. But that who would have known?
Yeah, exactly. So like I felt like I gained a connection with Veronica. So like after that puzzle, Veronica's obviously upset and she storms, like not storms, but like just like sighs and like walks over to the tribal council area, like away from the challenge. And I'm like, I don't want her feeling so upset that she like lost the challenge for us, because that's not what happened. So like I go over to her, give her like this big hug and like rub her on the back and like, it's okay, it's fine, we're good, we'll make it through or whatever. So I have this like what I feel like is a good moment with Veronica, and then she's just like, nah. So it just I feel like I could have fostered like more of a relationship with Veronica moving forward. Like I would have been good with her. I would have been good with Kristen. Like if the 3 of us could do something, that would probably rope Jeremy into it, because, you know, Jeremy and Veronica were tight on Old Purple. So I feel like there would have been more of an intermingling than they thought, because a lot of people heard me talk a lot of Survivor facts. I know a lot of Survivor facts, but I'm not studying the strategy. I'm not like, okay, what move did these people do and did it work and will it work in this situation? I'm not that type of person. So I feel like my like encyclopedic knowledge almost backfired, because they thought I was like this big brain
Right.
for strategy.
Can
When
you
I
give
watch
me?
entertainment,
I
Can you
just
give
want
me
to say
like a
hi to
random?
Kyle really quick. Thank you, Kyle,
Oh,
for
hi,
watching.
Kyle.
Legend. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Like, I just want to know, can you give me like one random Survivor fact, just on the top of your head, just to?
oh my gosh, you're putting me on the spot. Like,
I want to know if you're gonna make me go, "Wow, I didn't know that." That's what I'm curious about.
and this isn't directly about the show, but if you watched After Australian Outback, the after show, Deb Eaton married her stepson.
I know this. I know.
I mean, I knew that too.
But so that was the first thing that came to my head. But like Carter has like less confessionals than Carter from Philippines has like less confessionals than some people who go out pre-merge in like older seasons. Like it's wild. I did like a random Survivor podcast on Carter, and there was not much to talk
It's
about.
so interesting, Survivor doing that to like people like Carter and Brett and all that. But I would never do that here.
Intentionally. Do you want to know the fun Survivor New York fact that Chris and I kind of love? And this is actually true at Survivor Brooklyn South too. A straight white man has never won Survivor New York. Never ever.
George, so my big like pat on the back moment is in All Stars for Brooklyn South. George is like, all right, so we obviously know where Jordan Kalish is going, because it was a Survivor trivia based word puzzle. And so I'm just like, George, like he knows I'm big with Survivor trivia as well. And he was just like, well, you got Jordan. And I'm just like, okay, so. And so we get to the word puzzle. I'm also on the word puzzle. And I spout out Chibogamogo by just looking at the words. And Jordan didn't say anything for it. He was just like laying out tiles. And I was like, I solved this. I knew the tribe name. Like, I knew all this. And it was just my big like pat on the back moment of,
good for you.
I got you, George.
I had that too in Toronto Brooklyn South the first time I played. I think I recognized it was like fan favorite Sierra Dawn Thomas was our puzzle answer, and I have to go look at what
Fan
it
favorite
was
game
back.
changer, Sierra Dawn
Yeah,
Thomas.
Yeah.
Are you talking about Brooklyn South 1, Naomi?
Yeah, what was that
It,
puzzle?
it was the America's Tribal Council winner Rupert Bonham or something like that.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
Me and Stephanie are like sitting there like, we know the answer, but Jared can't throw.
No, we're moving on.
Okay.
But kind of the thing that I observed, and I think maybe I'm curious how you feel this would have gone down, is I felt like if you had just thrown one person under the bus, if you had said, because as we'll see, the big talk from Veronica in the next part of the episode is like, well, should we vote out Danny? Like, let's target someone from the Green Tribe. Let's target Danny. If you had said, I'm not working with Danny or Andy, you just totally lie. Bullshit. I'm not working with Danny and Andy. I don't like them. I think they're bossy. Whatever. Make it all up. Do you think that strategy, upon reflection, would have worked? Because I feel like what they were looking for from you was, here's who I'm with and here's who I'm not with. The problem is you were with everybody because they all liked you so much.
That's the thing. Like, I play a you can take me at my word kind of game pretty much always. So like, I was cool with everyone there until like I had to turn on Ari. I was still cool with Ari, and obviously Ari was really cool with me. So like, I felt great with everyone. So I didn't really have anybody who I was super skeeved out by or super sketched out by, because we had voted out someone who I felt like was the outlier on our tribe. And so I felt like we meshed, but that also could have been flipped back on me. And like, that also meant I would have had to, like, I wanted to go for someone that was a no-go. And I had only played one game before. Like, one org was also voted out pre-merge. Want to say sixth boot. And I just needed to have a little bit more under my belt to know, like, pivot, be a little bit more loose with the way things happen, because I kind of went out similarly with, I was blindsided. That was the only time my name was thrown out or like written down on parchment, was when I was going home. I was working with like everyone on the tribe, and it just kind of formed into, well, she's an option, or like, she's a threat down the line.
Did you ever consider McKenna like to just lying to them and being like, "Hey, I have an idol," or something like a Hail Mary at tribal council, like something crazy, like just get up and start like whispering, make it live, or just like go out like with a huge bang?
It never occurred to me, because I think I believed Veronica too much than I should have, because it also felt like we had a one-on-one that round, and was like, it felt like I had a shot. She made me feel like there was a shot, because excuse me, her and Annie, to what she told me afterwards, but also was kind of not true, and I don't want to start drama, but it felt like a agreement that they would throw each other's names out when asked. And Veronica used that agreement more than Annie used that agreement. So Veronica was willingly giving Annie's name out. And so I was like, this feels a little bit more true, because she was throwing it out at Kayla's round. She was she had been the one throwing Annie's name out. And so I was hoping to get in with Veronica, because she felt like more of a power player, when now it's Julia is kind of the power player because she was telling Veronica, no, we have to keep Ed in the game. No, we have to keep Sharif in the game. So, like, maybe if I got in more with Julia, that I might have been a little bit more safe, but because of the dragonflies, I still think I was dead in the water unless they got rid of Annie.
It's funny, we see talk at the next tribal council of Julia potentially flipping on Veronica.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious what your relationship with Julia was like, because as you've just pointed out, Veronica was someone who was really trying to, and I think as Chris pointed out, sometimes in these games, now I may or may not be somebody with a take charge personality. It's up for debate. But when people are quiet and they're not providing a lot of like insight, or maybe they're being a little bit less involved, you almost feel the panic to double your involvement when you're sort of a person who likes to put things together. So if nobody else is really saying a name, you're just going to double up on whatever because nobody else is contributing. And I feel like that's what Veronica was doing. She would throw something out there, not a lot of responses. And so she's like, all right, okay, I guess I'll like, nobody wants to, it's like when nobody raises their hand in class.
Mm-hmm. Oh God, then I raise my hand and it's bad.
Exactly. So Veronica's like constantly raising her hand. She's really sick of lying to people, which I totally understand. So Veronica is talking to you a lot. I love is there that moment where they're like, what connections do you have? Oh, I think it's at the Edsel vote where they're like, what connections do they have? And she goes, let's ask them, and walks right over. Took me out.
I love that.
But I want to know about your relationship with Julia in particular in this round.
I felt like we connected great on day 0 before tribes were there. And not that we didn't after tribes. It was just, I feel like we had more of a chat there. And I was part of the people who would not go to bed and were just sitting there in a little circle. And she was there too. And it felt like we were like having good talks, but nothing like ever solid. It was just always more like I liked talking to her. And it was just that. And then I didn't talk to her again until we met on the beach and or on the swap. And then I was like, all right, let's try. And then she felt more reserved than Veronica did. Veronica, like we're talking about, is more of the go-getter. Like, I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you. So I didn't feel as connected to Julia as I would have wanted to, but I still felt something for her.
I wanted to ask you this earlier because we were playing like the what if game.
Mm-hmm.
So if Kristen had given you the idol and you knew that the whole tribe was voting for you, right? And you were going to play this idol, would you have still voted for Annie, or do you think you would have like said, you know what, I'm going to take out a big player and like maybe go for like Veronica or Julia or maybe even Sharif?
No, it still would have been Annie because, again, she was just the person I had the least relationships with, and I feel like I could have been more like, I didn't want to go for any of you, but I wanted to save myself. So I'm like, sorry, but Annie was my casualty. Then again, it puts me in a good position. Sort of. They could still use the mentality of the majority greens or let's just get to the merge with the next vote or Ed's vote if I was still in the game of I need to split the 2-2 possibility. So like
Right.
that puts me in the middle again. But yes, I would have 100% played an idol because I knew it was happening. That's why when both times you were like, let's give a last speech, I was like, I'm giving a last speech because I know it could be my last one.
Of course, that's the opportunity. Well,
yeah. And that's why I was like, I'm this Polypel. Like, it really meant for me, like, I really meant it. Like, I was with this group. If they wanted to ride, I would have rode with them because, like, I didn't feel an undying loyalty to Danny, Andy, or Robin.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think really when you summarize it, it's the Christian relationship and nothing else. Now, you have an idol. Let's say you have an idol.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you targeting? Like
Annie,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Do
Like
you
it should have been someone better, like someone
Yeah.
like perceived in more of a power position, because it felt like Annie had a lot of good ideas, but was being spoken over by both Julia and Veronica. And like I feel like after watching both my episode and the Ed episode, that I should have made more of a relationship and gone more to Annie, because I feel like that would have been a really good relationship to pursue, because she was kind of thinking more on my same wavelength of like, all right, well, we have one, maybe two more votes max. The boys are right there. Let's just go. Or like, Veronica's really getting on my nerves now because she's just throwing my name around. Like, this kind of sucks, but I can't do anything about it. Otherwise, I'll be voted out. I feel for her in the position that she is in.
Chris, you talked a lot, like, you had mentioned to me that like the Annie edit has been really surprising you. I just was wondering if you wanted to talk about that for a second. I think seeing Annie really jump off the page here in these past 2 episodes.
Right. I mean, at the time of filming, really knew nothing about Annie's game. I think also want to just say McKenna was the first like major surprise that I had of the season. I had no clue McKenna was going until people were voting at the voting booth, and before that, I kind of had inklings. So when I saw that, I was like shook. But Annie, I really knew nothing about her. Everyone just kind of played her off as this like very ditzy, like silly type of girl. And the only time I kind of saw that is when she walked past the voting booth twice and not seeing us over there. And I thought that was hilarious. So watching the footage and just kind of like learning about like how big of a Survivor fan she is and how defensive she is for her own game is like really awesome. And I feel very empowered by her that, she's not going to just let Veronica get away with something like this, but she's willing to put that sort of feeling aside to get further in the game and potentially use Veronica as a vote if she needs to. And I think that is what's rising with a lot of gay men have reached out to me and said that Annie is their queen.
Stannies.
And I guess
Stannies.
and the Stannies are coming out.
Stannies rise.
That's a lot of gay men, but I think she's open for anybody. So go support Annie.
Yes, of course.
I know. Annie, who is like probably silent in the group chat, which I love.
Yeah, I don't know if
silent.
I've ever seen her throw a message up there, but
which we love. Like, keep your mouth shut until like it's your time to shine, like
exactly.
No, that kills me. McKenna, my question now is sort of like you've gotten to play a lot, a couple more games, and really just be in this universe. I don't even want to say what would you do differently, but is there a different type of game you'd like to play? What kind of new Survivor player would you like to be, if any?
I don't know. So like it's hard for me to deviate from myself, and I just like fall back. So like it kind of all depends on the game. So I felt like in this one, I was a straight shooter, was completely open with like, oh, let's talk shop, let's talk Survivor, do this. Then I toned that down for SBS 4, and I was just like talking normal and would not bring out the Survivor knowledge unless George throws a trivia challenge, and I have to do well at that. And then for All Stars, it threw a whole new can of beans in there because I knew everyone basically. So it's kind of depends on the cast for me knowing how to play. And I have realized while playing more and more of these games that I have a lot of emotions, and I would love to play like a ruthless villainous game cut left and right, but I have friends in these games, and like, yes, we can probably be friends outside of the game, but like, there is still that what if, and I don't know if I could do that to people that I know outside of the game, or like, how do I go about talking about people I know? So if I was like, all right, I'm really good friends with this person, but what happens if I throw their name out and it gets back to them and they're like, what the hell? So it's like, I don't know if I would change my game, but I adapt to the situation I'm in.
Yeah.
So like, I adapted to Danny being on my tribe and very much putting him on this pedestal of, you got this, you're the man, you're the leader, you're the coach, kind of horrible person to relate him to outside of Survivor, but inside of Survivor, very Silas. Like, he's like kneeling down talking to us and be like, all right, let's prepare for this challenge, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, he's
He
like a
was very-
T-ball coach.
It's literally the perfect Survivor comparison.
I know, and bad person outside of the game, but inside of the game, yeah, definitely.
I love Silas from Survivor Africa, and that's
Yes.
it.
Well, something, it's funny. Oh no, come on. Don't lose what you're going to say. Come
You're doing
on.
it again, Naomi.
You know what I was going to say is Danny really coaches y'all through the ball challenge.
You know what? You could just burn that with just get
that
rid
challenge was a mess, but Danny really it's not in the edit. Stan was so mad. Stan was like so fuming mad at his tribe.
I was also getting there because the ball was fine, and like, no shade to Robin, but a little shade to Robin. It would basically only fall on their corner, and I was getting a little like mad because I'm not good with running. Said it right out there. Don't make me run. And what do we have to do? Run back and forth 200 times. I'm like, great. I'm going to be wheezing down this pathway here. But it was so difficult. And Danny, I could tell, was frustrated. But unlike Stan, was keeping his somewhat of a cool head and like helping us through the challenge. I do think he was a great asset in challenges because he hit all the targets. I did nothing. I missed every single shot I took. So like, and maybe I would have eventually gotten it. No, I did not get one. That was all Danny.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's what I mean. Danny's like a T-ball coach. Like, he was getting frustrated, but he didn't want to show it. He didn't want to let his kids know that he was mad. And he worked through it and got you guys to the end. Versus Stan, who was gymming the camera from the officing the camera, being like, "Oh, can you believe it? I'll find those clips. I'll post them." But McKenna, always appreciated how sharp your gameplay was. I think that you, like, some people were clocking things out of nowhere, but you were always very like locked into like what was happening at that exact moment in the game, which I think is very hard to do. Even harder to do the first time around that you experience a game like this. And to be sort of really outside of the community coming into it is very difficult. And I always really loved watching it. And I'm so glad we found your confessional. Chris, do you want to tell this story?
Oh god.
Oh my god. So yeah, basically when I was editing this episode, I was like, holy crap, we don't have any McKenna confessionals. So I was like, okay, the next time I see McKenna is going to be soon. It's going to be Survivor Brooklyn South All-Stars. So I was like, let me pull her after she wins or loses the game and have you just like film some confessionals, just like pretending like it's at that time. You're wearing a red t-shirt, no green buff, nothing. But you're giving me like the confessional.
If you would have prepped me, I would have brought like the outfits, the volleyball buff.
I didn't think that, and I was like, you know what? Go for it. And you gave these like amazing confessionals. I put it in the original draft. I sent it to Alex and Naomi to kind of look it over. And then we found the confessional that was in this episode. And we were like, oh, so let's put that back in there. And it was just as good or even better. And it made it. And I was so happy. and it was like
I
perfect.
remember the confessional clearly because I was like, this is not gonna be good. And then
Yeah.
I remember what I said. Pretty much, I want to say I recited the confessional very close to what I had before. And then it's like, I'm pretty sure Louis filmed this confessional, and he was currently hiking the PCT at the time. So there was no way to contact him to see if we could even get it from him.
It was on my. I'll take the blame for this one. It was on my handheld camera, so it was on an SD card, and
yeah.
I didn't upload the footage to the drive. But I don't know, Chris, that like the way that Chris and I exchange footage is like very complicated.
Mhm.
Where some of it gets put on a hard drive when I'm there, and then some of it needs to get uploaded later. So I don't think it made it off of my hard drive into Chris's hands, which is frustrating. But then I uploaded all of that handheld footage, and I was like, "Oh my god, please!" Because a lot of it was just nonsense. But
Yeah.
it's got some really good post-merge stuff coming up that we need to make sure is in there. But I'll take blame for that. Maybe we'll do a side by side. I was very impressed that you could recite basically word for
I
word.
have a great memory.
That's awesome. I was thinking, McKenna, what Survivor you reminded me of in the terms of like the gameplay setting, like
Mhm.
what happened to you, and it reminded me of Rourke. Do you remember Rourke?
Oh yeah.
Because it was
Oh
like
wow.
she got on the great tribe that won all the challenges. She
Mhm.
got swapped onto a tribe with nobody that she knew, and
Yeah.
for no like real like definitive reason other than that she had people on the other tribe. They didn't know if she was the bottom or had the alliances that she
Yep.
had. She really didn't have anybody, but they voted her out just because she was a number to a bigger group. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's like my Survivor comparison.
I kind of figured that was the reason why I was voted out, and I almost liked that it was confirmed that it was that and not like some other reason, but it was also like, god damn, guys, like if you only like talk to me, like that's the thing that gets me sometimes with games is like if you just talk to me, be like, hey, we're scared of the green numbers over there. Are you willing to like vote someone out? Not like, what are your relationships like over there? Like, give me the direct question. I'll give you the direct answer. Yes, I will vote out these 3 people, and I will get I will hopefully get Kristen on my side to do this. And
I
us.
agree. I think if you had said like I am with Kristen, she's like my number one, number two, like telling the exact truth and saying like vote Danny and Andy, but I will not vote Kristen. That might have been like a big like sign to them, like maybe.
And I also didn't get the question of like, will you vote other people out? Like that's why I made my pitch at Tribal Council the way I did. Like, I'm here. I'm with you guys. You are my tribe. And like I just wish a little bit like more direct communication was there, and like that's kind of what I as a person need. I need you to tell me what you want, and then I will give you not necessarily what you want, but like I'll give you the answer to your question. So it's hard when I'm getting like roundabout things in a game of social relationships where you don't want to piss anybody off, but you also want to save your own ass.
And also you have like 10 minutes. Like you really just have no time at all. So your answer needs to be the correct answer right away. Yeah, it's a very difficult spot. And I thought you really handled it quite well, despite all the odds being really stacked against you.
Yeah.
And you made it out before the hurricane. I know that's not like it's like a weird consolation prize.
I just had like the moment of, me sulking in my bed all day while it was raining. And I love Veronica now. I'm going to preface this. I was like, if Veronica wins, I swear to God, I'll be so mad. Because I just felt done so dirty by her. Like I was trying to get with Veronica in this situation so bad. I trusted her. And then she was like, nah, bye. And then now while watching it, they were like, you know what? We're going to tell you boys who it is. And I'm just like, what? You're just going to tell them. And meanwhile, I get the like run around here. Like, I get they weren't even talking about what if she has an idol.
Point.
They weren't even talking about like trying to either split a vote.
That's so interesting.
Any of that.
Yeah.
And I was like,
wow.
Why didn't I get like that? All right, it's gonna be you.
But did you have
Alex
that
is so
moment
funny.
though? Oh yeah, Alex says. I was gonna say, did you have this moment in the hurricane? Alex says the hurricane was everyone's punishment for voting out McKenna. Did you have that moment? You know, the survivor moment where you're like, those suckers have to sit in the rain all day and I don't have to.
There was a little bit, but they're also still playing the game, and I
Yeah.
was not. There's that, and then there's the maddening fact of Ed being on the jury, and I was like, I was one vote away from jury, 2 from merge. Like, if that had just come that much sooner, I won one more challenge, and then it could have been an entirely different game.
I know that, and we'll talk to Ed sometime soon. But part of why we did that is because I think, Chris, why did we do that? What was the reasoning
Which part?
for letting like the last person voted out of the pre-merge join the jury?
I think I just wanted to throw in another Bannerman Island twist.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of like just a fun little idea that I thought, like, you know what, they could choose to be a part of the jury or not, and like kind of give them that last bit of like, oh, I just got voted out, I'm not part of the jury, I'm like totally out of this game, but like then the no comes in and it's like it makes them feel like they're back in the game again. I
Yeah,
think that's exactly what I got, what I wanted
it
from
was.
Ed.
But it was
You
felt
know,
like a kick to the face as me watching it. I was like, he gets this beautiful send off. He gets this note to join the jury, and I was just like, all right, bye, because you have other green people. And I'm like, what? Why?
Thinking back, I wish I had done it for your boot because it would have had like a bigger jury. But then again, I'm like, well, then McKenna would have had to stay all the way with the
McKenna
hurricane
would
and
have.
everything.
I know
McKenna
you
would
would
have.
have. That's not the question. Well, I also think that this episode is not a double boot episode because it's easy to skip over your elimination. In fact,
No.
I think they go hand in hand is really part of it. And I think that it's essentially these past 2 episodes have been watching the Purple Alliance essentially like not want to decimate 2 groups of people, but then they decide to. Like, it's very funny. They never want to do what they end up doing, and then they always do it.
Yeah, no. I have an editor's brain. I know what's going on. Like, it's all just like personal, being like, damn, like my emotion. I understand why everything goes on, but it's just like, now watching this kind of sucks.
It's hard.
Yeah, but that's what you get for playing a game that is made into episodes. It just happens.
Yeah. So
All right.
McKenna, before we go off, what was your favorite memory from the
great
whole
question.
experience?
My favorite memory, nothing beats an immunity win. Like the rush. Now, we never got first, but nothing beats the rush of that winning immunity. You're not going to tribal council, and it just felt so great. I also made amazing friends out of this, and just even those who I don't talk to as often, like our whole cast just feels very kumbaya, and like like nobody outright hates each other. There's no like crazy bad blood that I know of as someone who is not in the city and doesn't regularly go to things. But my relationships with people are all pretty positive, and so it just feels nice to have that in a cast.
I think especially that immunity win after you had lost, that's the best one. That's the one where you're like, thank God.
Yeah.
McKenna, thank you for being here. And thank you for everything you've done for Survivor New York. Season 6 does not exist without McKenna's help, for sure. So McKenna, I want you to talk about all the wonderful things that you do that are Survivor related. So if someone's watching this and they like you so much already, they're a McKenna stan. Sorry, your name just doesn't Stena. Like, it doesn't work as well.
McStena.
McStena. Yeah.
So I will be having a show with one of my friends, John, on the Survivor Specialist YouTube channel. So we will be talking about this week's Survivor episode and how it relates to a past Survivor episode or past Survivor moments. So once that season starts up, you can catch us there on Thursdays, I believe. And then I'm over at Dynamic Character Productions or DCP_org. And if you want to play a game, we've had Emily Paddock on one of our seasons, and she does what she does in this game. So if you want to see more of that,
Ooh.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah, exactly. So if you liked her in season 4, you can go watch Trinity Falls on Dynamic Character Productions.
Incredible stuff. Thank you for everything, McKenna. Just to let y'all know, speaking of Emily Paddock, guess who's going to be on the recap on tomorrow? Oh my God, Emily Paddock and Michael Schwartz that is the Iona Tribe Handlers are joining Mark and Davey on the Silent Podcast recap going live at 8:30 p.m. tomorrow night. There's no Survivor on, so you have no excuse. Tune in. I'm very excited to hear them talk about everything from this past week and also from the past couple episodes.
Yeah.
Survivor New York is on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, not Twitter, but we also have a Survivor New York viewer group on Facebook where we spam the shit out of it. And on the 10th, if you're in New York City, we are watching another episode together. Check out the Survivor New York Instagram for more information. We're watching the Merge episode. I cannot wait.
It won't be as good. I'm not there. I'm sorry.
It's just like way less hot, but it's fine. It's all right. And I'm so excited. Chris, if you had one word to describe the Merge episode, how would you describe it?
Oh God, that's such a hard question. Honestly, I would just call it I would say intense is the word. It is intense.
Yes, I would say everybody
I was
is very
gonna say
irritable.
cringe, but it's intense. Irritable is another word, but it's also a little cringe.
I can't wait. So make sure youtube.com/Survivor New York. Subscribe to Silent Podcast. Give a little 5-star review. Tell Silent Podcast why you love us so much. We're so happy to be here. And make sure to check out the other podcasts I have. I have so many. I think literally someone, Jordan Kalish asked me the other day, he was like, wait, I didn't realize you were on Silent Podcast beyond this. And I was like, what are you talking about? I've been doing podcasts for like a year and a half for Silent Podcast. But I have The Genius, we have Project Runway, Top Chef, or there's been some amazing coverage of all different shows, some pressure cooker interviews. And I will be reviewing, oh my God, I forgot about this, Big Brother 8 very soon with Isaiah and some other lovely special guests. So just, stay tuned, stay connected. I'm so happy to be here.
Mike Waite Was Robbed, where we talk all about Edna and how she was the hero of South Pacific.
I actually thought about this earlier when you mentioned Carter, and I should mention this, that McKenna and I have one of my favorite episodes of Mike Waite Was Robbed, where we talk about Edna, one of my personal kind of legends of Survivor that nobody talks about enough.
Mm-hmm.
The Tree Male Advisor Queen. Valencia says Edna. 5 stars only. If you don't think this one is 5 stars, just wait and find one that is. Fucking nailed it, Valencia. Thank you, everybody who comments and watches Survivor New York. We love you. Let's all just say goodnight to the folks at home, everyone. Bye-bye. You can say bye out loud.